Your Tracks is sponsored by Polaris, think outside. Yamaha, revs your heart. And by Kawasaki, let the good times roll.
As I'm sure you can imagine, over the course of a season, AJ and I get countless questions that are in regards to just about any topic you can think of relating to ATVs, side-by-sides. Now, some of these questions are a lot easier to answer than others, and the easiest question to answer of all is this: where should I go on an off-road vacation? The reason this question is so easy to answer is because there is no doubt one place in North America that puts all other off-road riding destinations to shame. From the trails, to the people, to the food, to the accommodations, whenever I get asked the above question, this one destination is my answer every time. Hatfield McCoy Trails in West Virginia is really 9 different riding areas, each with their own unique personality, all underneath the umbrella of the Hatfield McCoy Trails network. My experience with Hatfield McCoy Trails is extensive. I've ridden 8 of the 9 individual trail systems, some of them 3, 4, even 5 times. I've attended their National Trails Fest event, and I've sampled everything they have to offer in terms of accommodation, food, extracurricular activities, points of interest, and I've made some really excellent friends along the way. When I pick Hatfield McCoy Trails as my favorite off-road destination, it's a decision based on a huge quantity of experience. Today, I'd like to go over each individual trail system within the network and give an overview of what you can expect from that trail, some of the interesting places you need to visit while you're there, and what I think is unique and visit-worthy of each one of them. Because there are so many trails, the easiest way to do this, I think, is to break the trail systems down into 2 smaller groups. The more northern trail systems, Bear Wallow, Rochelles House, Buffalo Mountain, Anse and Ivy Branch, and the systems located farther south in the state, Pinnacle Creek, Indian Ridge, Pocahontas, and Warrior. The first system I want to take a look at today is the first system I ever visited, Rochelles House. I have a lot of memories of this trail. I've been there numerous times, and I'm excited to share with you guys why I love it and why it's definitely worth going back, even for me, who's been there as many times as I have. My experience with Rochelles House goes way back to my very first trip to Hatfield McCoy. The town of Gilbert holds a very special place in my heart because it's where I was introduced to all of Hatfield McCoy. The people there are some of the best people you will ever meet. Every shop in town is welcoming and wants you to come in even when you're muddy, which was a surprise to me. Gilbert is also home of the Larry Joe Harless Community Center, which is the home base for their National Trails Fest event, something I've attended, I think, 7 or 8 times, and is one of the most interesting and all-encompassing ATV jamboree types events that you will find in the entire country. The 2 towns connected to Rochelles House is obviously Gilbert, as I've mentioned, but also the town of Man, which is an excellent destination if you're leaving from Gilbert to get to Man for lunch and gas. Man itself includes lots of amenities: gas, food, lodging, anything you could possibly need. So depending on where you live in the country or where you're traveling from, you can either stay in Man or Gilbert, whichever one is closest to you, and take advantage of the entire Rochelles House trail system. Rochelles House gets its name from a large rock formation way up on top of one of the hills that looks like a great big rock house, but there's so much more to see on this trail. Numerous overlooks will give you vast expanses to see of all the West Virginia countryside. There's some interesting waterfalls, there's interesting historical places pertaining to mining and the history of West Virginia. It's an excellent spot to ride with trails that range from easy to most difficult, but most of them are on the more difficult or most difficult side of the spectrum. So if you're a rider who likes technical trails, this is where you should start. The next system I want to talk about is one I rode back in 2015 when it first opened, and it's called Devil Anse. Devil Anse is actually what connects Rochelles House and Buffalo Mountain, and without it, you couldn't get between the 2 places. But the interesting part about the Devil Anse trail system is the history that's involved in its area. Devil Anse is connected directly to the town of Matewan, and of all the places I've been in West Virginia, Matewan might just be my favorite because I love history so much. So many notable things happened in Matewan, including the beginnings of the mining wars, the Hatfield McCoy feud. A lot of the situations happened right in the town of Matewan, and there's so much history right in that town that you can touch and feel. If you like history, this is the place to go. Back when I first started riding in Matewan, there was very little there in terms of amenities. Now, though, there's some excellent restaurants, places to stay. It's an excellent place to stop for lunch if you're heading from Rochelles House or Buffalo Mountain, but no matter what, if you're in the area, you can't miss it. The trails on Devil Anse are more on the technical side, more of the advanced type of riding, though there are many easy trails as well. If you're starting from Rochelles House and you like technical riding, Devil Anse has to be part of your day-long trip. But I think the one aspect of the Devil Anse trail system that intrigued me the most, beyond anything else, was that the Hatfield Family Cemetery is located not too far off the trail. You can actually go visit where Devil Anse Hatfield himself is buried, along with all of his family members, and see their grave sites. You can see the Devil Anse statue with his back facing Kentucky. There's just so much touch and feel kind of history happening right in this trail system with the town of Matewan and the cemetery. This is a place that has captured me, and I would go back any day and spend a whole day there and never get bored.
Dirt Tracks is sponsored by Princess Auto. Make it work.
The third system of this three-system chain is Buffalo Mountain. Now, Buffalo Mountain is one of the systems I rode way back in the beginning, 12 or 13 years ago, and it's also the system I've ridden most recently, just at the end of last season with my Uncle Rick when we did some mountain biking as well as some side-by-side riding and checking out the trails up there. Buffalo Mountain is a very interesting trail system as well because it is one of the oldest in the network. It connects to the town of Matewan through the Devil Anse system and then again on to Rochelles House, but it also has a lot of interesting history in it as well. Things connected to the Matewan Massacre, to the mining wars, very interesting things to see and do around there. The trails, of course, are why you're there. The vast majority of Buffalo Mountain trails are in the more difficult to most difficult categories. And in fact, 76% of the trails fit into that category. So again, these three networks are very much where you'd go if you like technical riding or challenging yourself. Though, again, there are easy trails in each of them to keep the entire family happy. There are towns connected directly to Buffalo Mountain, the town of Delbarton and the town of Williamson. Now, Williamson and Delbarton are a little bit larger places that offer more than enough amenities to keep you going all day or all week long. Some other places to see along the trail would be some old mining equipment that still exists out there, and there's also some mining tunnels that you can check out that exist since the old mining days when the mines were hand dug. The fourth trail system I want to talk about today is one of the original three Hatfield systems. It's called Bear Wallow. It is located basically right off the side of the city of Logan, which is not a small town like many of the other connections that you make in Hatfield McCoy. It is an actual city with city-like brand name amenities from fast food places to brand name hotels. There are also little lodges and things you can stay at, but if you want to stay at a brand name hotel that you're familiar with, there are those options there as well. I rode Bear Wallow for the first time in 2013 with a bunch of local guys from around here, a local riding crew called the Wheeler Nation crew, and we had an absolute blast on that trip. Bear Wallow is known for having a mix of trails, but the majority of them are in the more to most difficult categories. So again, if you're a technical rider and you like those types of trails, this is a good choice for you. And it's also one of two trail systems in the Hatfield McCoy network that is open to ORV vehicles or basically Jeeps and rock buggies. The trails here are a mix of damp lower sections and then some steep climbs. There's some rock sections that are pretty impressive as well. But I think the biggest part about Bear Wallow that makes it so great is that you can literally access a city. So let's say you're riding with your family. You know, you want to go to a place where they're going to feel not isolated. They're going to feel like they're in an area where there is amenities, where it's more familiar to them. This is a great place to start. Neat things to do there, some neat things to see. There's also some neat history surrounding the area, as there seems to be with all Hatfield McCoy trail systems. Definitely the biggest draw, in my opinion, for Bear Wallow is the more technical trails that are going to keep your adrenaline up a little bit, but not so hard that you couldn't take your family in a 4-seater or you and mom drive 2-seaters with the kids. And then also the city of Logan that gives you all the amenities you could possibly need to feel comfortable and have a great holiday. The final system I want to talk about today that's grouped in with the more northerly trails of the Hatfield McCoy network was open and then was closed and is now back open again, and that is Ivy Branch. I rode Ivy Branch in 2014, right when it actually opened, with a friend of the show, Shelby Mahan, and we had an awesome time riding Ivy Branch. And what sets Ivy Branch apart, that it's located more north in the state, but it's located not 10 minutes from Charleston, West Virginia. So a full-on major city with full-on restaurants, brand name restaurants, hotels, shopping malls, you name it, Charleston has it. And you can stay in Charleston and ride Ivy Branch on your side-by-side and then head back to Charleston for a night on the town that would rival any city. That's what really, in my opinion, sets Ivy Branch apart in a big way. But the trails themselves themselves are also unique to the rest of the Hatfield McCoy network. Ivy Branch is one of only 2 systems at Hatfield McCoy that allow ORVs. Trails are tailored to suit those vehicles, as well as side-by-sides and ATVs. So when you go to Ivy Branch, you can go there with any number of vehicles and have an awesome experience while staying in a major city. Things that stood out in my mind about the trails was that there is an excellent mix of trails. A number of easy trails that you can take your family on that are more like kind of dirt roads, so they're nice and easy for the family, they're not intimidating, they're not scary. And then you can take some offshoot trails that would be what I would consider expert trails or beyond expert trails. Things with massive rocks, massive obstacles, places that you had to winch to get through, there was no other way, and obviously places that only rock buggies and massive Jeeps are capable of going. Ivy Branch was closed for a little while due to some land issues. It is now back open again, much to the chagrin of anybody who likes off-road riding, and especially the guys who like Jeeps and rock buggies and things like that. So we're very pleased to see that and see that Hatfield McCoy, doesn't give up on a trail system, fights to keep the trails open when people fall in love with them, and that's what's happened with Ivy Branch. So that wraps up our first section of Hatfield McCoy Trails and the overviews and what you can expect and things that we liked about each one. This was the northern trails that we talked about today. On the next episode, we're going to talk about the 4 more southern trails, as well as 1 new trail that's opening here in the near future. So stay tuned for that coming up next week.
Dirt Tracks is sponsored by Shock Strap. Start strapped, stay strapped.
We've been working with Marlin Products over the past few seasons, and I gotta say, the stuff that you can do with your truck is pretty amazing. Summer to winter, it doesn't really matter. You don't need a trailer with Marlin Products. The Marlon XPLORE 2 Series side-by-side deck is one of those impressive products. It totally removes the need for a trailer and lets those of us with side-by-sides not only travel with our rig, but also pull a travel trailer or a flat deck loaded up with more buggies. The possibilities really are endless, but I see those with a house trailer as being the ones who can take huge advantage of a product like this, because now you can take your side-by-side and your accommodations all without the need for a toy hauler, and really that toy hauler doesn't even fit the big side-by-sides anyways. Well, I guess now your truck is the toy hauler. Prior to the latest version of the XPLORE 2, Marlon side-by-side decks were designed for just the biggest and baddest side-by-sides. Fitting a 50-incher on? Yeah, that wasn't happening. Now with the new Gen 2 version XPLORE 2, you can take whatever side-by-side you want, literally. Be it a 50-inch Razor 570 or a fully kitted out 72-inch Pro or a Ranger and even a 4- and 6-seater variation, you're ready to roll. And the nice part is, say you start out with a 2-seater for you and your significant other, the XPLORE 2 fits side-by-sides up to 120 inches long. But now you're a few years older, wiser, and with kids in tow, and that 2-seater just got traded in for a 4-seater or even a 6-seat Ranger crew. Gotta buy a new deck, right? Wrong. The XPLORE 2 was designed with an extension kit in mind for those of you who want to upgrade all the way up to 165-inch long side-by-side. That's the biggest and baddest length that you can buy, and it'll go right on. No need to buy a new deck, and you can always go back to the 2-seater length should your needs change. Now you might be wondering about the length of your box. Do you need to go to an 8-foot bed if you want a 4-seater up on your truck? And the answer is a simple no. The XPLORE 2 was designed to fit in any pickup truck box from 6 foot 2 inches in length all the way up to 8 feet. Now that extension that takes you to a 4 or 6-seater will also work in any of those boxes. Pretty cool stuff, and I gotta be honest, you'll never get more looks than when you pull up to the local ride spot and your side-by-side is on top of your truck. Phones come out. Now you might be wondering if it's a task to put a side-by-side up there, and while it does look aggressive, it's simple and safe, and it's easy to do with built-in safety features. And the first of those safety features is the ramps. Not only do they positively lock onto the deck itself with nice hooks up front, they also feature a really tall sidewall that keeps you rolling straight, both going onto the ramp and coming back off. Secondly, there's ample built-in treads to allow you to both get grip with tires and with your feet when exiting. Third, there's a portion of the ramp that where the front wheels sit is actually cradled, helping to give you a secure feeling when you reach the top of the deck. Should you not feel comfortable driving up or off, there's also a built-in winch mount between the front tires, and you can let the winch do all the work for you. Add to this an easy-to-use and stow movable ladder for getting down, and truly everything has been covered to get you loaded up safely and headed to your riding destination. I've seen a lot of different ideas over the years for moving side-by-sides, and the Marlon line of decks do the best job of using your truck to its full potential, while also allowing you to travel with or without a trailer in tow.
Closed captioning of Dirt Tracks is sponsored by MBRP Performance Exhaust. Race-inspired, trail-proven.
Polaris' Sportsman 570 has long been a favorite of everybody on the Dirt Tracks crew. Yes, we definitely do love the big bore, top-of-the-line rigs, but the 570 can do pretty much everything they can do at a fraction of the price. It has always been the best example I could think of when I was asked if it's really necessary to shop at the top of the food chain to have the maximum amount of fun. I would even go so far as to say that I personally think it's one of, if not the best, all-round value in the industry right now. So when Polaris announced a completely redesigned Sportsman 570, I was intrigued, but also skeptical. There really was nothing wrong with the old one, and I can definitely think of a few ATVs that got worse after a redesign. This redesign is actually pretty broad. It covers not only the 570, but also the 450, and it covers the entire single-seat 570 lineup except for the X2 and the 6x6. There are now 7 different models of 570 Sportsman: the base, EPS, Premium, Hunt Edition, Trail, Utility HD LE, and the Ultimate Trail LE. There are some pretty important differences between these models that need to be understood before we go any further though. Most notably is the front suspension. There are actually 2 570 platforms in 2021. The base, EPS, Premium, and Utility versions all feature the same McPherson strut front suspension setups we're all very familiar with at this point. However, the Hunt, Trail, and Ultimate Trail versions feature an arched double A-arm setup that yields an extra 0.7 inches of travel, though overall ground clearance numbers stay the same. The model we have here today is a Sportsman 570 Trail. Now, usually I keep discussions about price and value till the end of the review, but I'm going to talk about it up front today because I really think it puts this Trail model into better perspective in light of the entire Sportsman 570 lineup. The model that's priced directly below the Trail that we have here is the 570 Premium Edition. It features the McPherson strut front end, standard on-demand 4x4 system, and 25-inch tires on 12-inch aluminum rims. The Trail Edition features the new arched double A-arm front suspension, the higher-end true on-demand 4x4 system, and includes 14-inch aluminum wheels with 26-inch tires. It also comes with a winch. The rest of the specs are pretty much identical, but the price difference between the two is only $600, which makes the Trail Edition with an MSRP of only $89.99 an absolutely outstanding value and a no-brainer upgrade over the Premium. Let me explain why. First and foremost is ride quality. The older McPherson strut front end is definitely not a bad riding system, but it's simply not as plush as the double A-arm setup. The extra 0.7 inches of travel is somewhat inconsequential because it's how the double A-arms work that really matters. The ride is simply more compliant and more comfortable on the trail. Second, it handles better, and not by a little bit. If there was one thing you could pick on with the McPherson strut front suspension design, it would be in regards to handling. This is simply due to the geometrics of a single A-arm design. It certainly isn't terrible, but again, the double A-arm setup is way better. Handling is more predictable and precise, especially on rough trails when speeds increase. Third, arched A-arms are superior. The more room you have underneath your ATV to pass over obstacles, the better. It means less contact with rocks and better traction in the mud. Now, these 3 points are the most important ones because they're things you can't just add to the 570 Premium Edition. They're differences in the actual chassis. The next 2 are just value-added extras that aren't included with the Premium. A winch is pretty self-explanatory and represents at least a $400 value. 14-inch aluminum wheels, they just look cool, and 26-inch tires offer better traction. Between the superior front suspension, arched A-arms, winch, and the wheel and tire setup, the 570 Trail is absolutely worth $600 more than the Premium. In reality, it's worth a lot more than that. But before you get the impression that I think this ATV is perfect, I do have a few things to gripe about. First and most glaring is the power steering. It offers way too much assist for high-speed riding. On the trail, it's still too much, but it's less noticeable than it is when the surface gets smoother and the speeds get higher. This excessively high assist gives the new 570 a very twitchy and off-center feel, which is not confidence-inspiring. Sure, you can just slow down, but who wants to do that? My next gripe is with this front rack. Now it includes a rack extension, which gives you the impression that you should be able to load it up with a whole bunch of stuff, but this hinge is just ridiculous. It's held together with little rubber O-rings. It's loose and floppy, which results in, well, this. It feels like you could just rip it off with minimal effort. This needs improvement for sure. Okay, so I've complained now, and I feel better. Truthfully though, those are really the only two things I have to complain about with this ATV. It looks tougher, rides better, handles better, is more comfortable, and more functional than the old Sportsman 570, which was already one of our favorite ATVs. My concern that Polaris changing the Sportsman 570 might result in a less awesome Sportsman 570 was completely unfounded, and I really should have known better. When Polaris sets out to redesign and improve an already awesome model, they pretty much always succeed. The 2021 Sportsman 570 Trail is just another example in a long history of Polaris vehicles that get better and better with each new version. Have we at TRAX found our new favorite ATV? Only time will tell, but at this point, things are looking very promising.
If you've enjoyed this segment, make sure you hit the like button. And also comment down below because we love hearing from our fans and we try to reply as much as possible. And also, make sure you subscribe because here at TRAX, we've always got cool stuff coming your way.